Before anything, I made a Discord channel, link in bio. We're going to be discussing new products, techniques, and other random topics. It's probably your best way to reach out to me, and once we hit a certain amount of members, I might also be doing some build-along secret streams, so definitely check it out. Hey guys, last time I said I wasn't gonna do another build because I was in the process of moving to Minnesota. That was a lie. This kit that we have right now is so well designed that I thought I could get it knocked out just in a couple of days, so I squeezed it in before I packed my equipment up. The Gundam Lfrith Ur. The box art is super nice as usual. I took a glance at the manual and noticed that it's probably the most well-designed kit out there in terms of how little work there is to do to fully complete the kit. We're talking about no seam line, great color separations, all that. For a mobile suit with such little screen time, this kit is surprisingly well designed. I would say probably more so than the protagonist suit. Now, this Taiwanese YouTube channel that I watch all the time, Madworks, I'm sure you guys have seen their tools. They have a YouTube channel where they do build showcases to promote their tools. They came up with this kind of a gamified gunpla building challenge where you get timed every time you touch a part and you have to finish a kit in 24 hours. At the end, you get scored based on their rubrics. The whole point of the show is to promote the idea that you can achieve good results while not spending a whole lot of time, which I think is great to get beginners into the hobby. Since the Lfrith Ur seems so well designed, I thought it'd be perfect for me to shoot one of these 24-hour challenges with this. So, timer out, let's get started. For how chunky the Lfrith Ur ended up being, there aren't actually that many parts. We got 6 large runners and a small beam saber one, a sheet of sticker that's mostly red parts that you can actually use for masking. The build process is super well designed, all of the parts made sense. This head had almost perfect color separation, including the eyes. Seamline is hidden by this top part. The only parts you need to mask are the middle red bit here on the antenna and a green sensor piece in the back. Arms and legs are both incredibly simple. The lower arms and legs both have seam lines built into the design, while the upper parts go in at the end, so no seam line work is ever required. The only part that's lacking a bit is this back weapon, missing a little bit of red, but that's not too bad. You can just mask with the included stickers. But you do have these little round marks that are pretty disgusting to sand. You'd have to use a small piece of sanding sponge to reach this area. The kit took me a little over an hour to build, not too bad on time. Let's briefly talk about the kit. I love the overall look of this kit. It doesn't really fit into the traditional Gundam standards, but I actually really like it when they bust out with these wacky proportions for enemy suits. It's bulky in all of the right places, giving this a very specialized heavy armor weapon kind of identity. I'm not going to change the proportions on this as it's pretty in line with the design in the but I think this would be absolutely great to use in a Kit Bash custom if you normalize the proportions a bit. Say, if you extend the waist a little bit, extend the neck and upper arms, I think this would look really, really good. Couple of last things to mention. The bottom of the feet have these 2 little areas to fill, as well as the back weapon, but I feel like you can get away not filling these. In typical Witch from Mercury fashion, we also have these empty holes with no accessories to fill up as well. That's about it. Let's get started. This is going to be a fairly straightforward build, so we have a bit more time to talk about the basic techniques, such as sanding. In order to have a smooth surface to paint on and have that paint grab onto the surface well, it's good to give the kit an overall sanding. For flat surfaces like these, you need some sort of a flat tool. I'm using a piece of acrylic here with double-sided tape for the sandpaper, so that your sandpaper can stay straight. This also gets rid of any slight imperfections of surfaces. After sanding, it's always good to rescribe along the existing details, since you might lose quite a bit of them. You might notice that I leave quite a bit of nubs when I snap build. Honestly, if you're currently only doing snap building but intend to move on to painting in the future, I would recommend you do the same, since removing nub marks is far easier when you actually paint over them, as you no longer have to worry about white stress marks. Stress marks also tend to shrink a little bit without paint over them over time, so yeah, overall I just recommend you wait till you paint the kits to actually work on these nub marks. For these left-right snap parts, you might want to sand them together to keep the surface uniform. This kit has a lot of corners, and panel lining liquid just won't set in these areas, so we have to deepen them. The key really is just going over this with a thin chisel, but very lightly. As long as you keep a light touch, the blade will just glide along the edge. But as soon as you assert too much power, the blade will no longer be steady and will go out of your intended bounds. So basically, just be patient. Keep going over the same edge a couple of times. Usually after 5 times or so, a groove will start to form, and I usually scribe along the edge for about 10 times or more to ensure an edge, right? But yeah, it's a tedious step, but if you really want your kit to have those like crispy, pronounced edges, then this is an essential step. In addition to sanding boards, I think you really should grab some sanding sponge sticks, 2 types to be exact. First type is this soft stick. This will follow the contour of the parts closely, so it's great for fully curved surfaces. For curved surfaces that still need to maintain some sort of an edge, like this thruster here, a soft stick will just get rid of all the edges. So we need to use a stiffer stick, like this one right here. The inside of this back skirt is completely hollow, so I wanted to make an insert for this. First, I laid some masking tape inside to get an outline. Once I got the outline, I cut out a piece of PLA plate in the same exact shape. After adding some details, this part is looking a lot better. Okay, so just the last couple of things. Earlier I said that the hollow parts probably didn't need to be filled on this kit because they weren't too visible, but I went ahead and did that anyways. The antennas are pretty thick. I didn't do any shaping or extensions on these. I just got rid of the toothbrush safety bits, just keeping it basic. That's about it for all the prep work. The time says 6 hours, so we're still doing pretty well on time. Let's move on to painting. This is a great time to explain how I come up with paints. The main color is a turquoise, so let's take a look at the color wheel. I want to start with the darker turquoise as the shade, then add white to create the main color. So my goal is getting something like this along this line here, right? And the color wheel tells us that it's somewhere between blue and green, so we'll use those two to create this color. I got an old bottle of some sort of green here with barely anything left, and I added cobalt blue to it. Then I added some primary color green from Gaia to try to get the turquoise I wanted. You can obviously use any shade of these colors, but these 2 paints specifically are rather saturated, so I can end up with a highly vibrant turquoise that I can adjust later. Let's test this out. First, covering the whole surface with the original paint, which will be the shade. At this point, I thought the color looked a little too green, so I added some cyan to compensate. Adjusting paint with primary colors will make sure that you don't lose vibrance. Then I added some white to the paint to make the main color, and also thinned it down by 1:1 from the already thinned paint, and sprayed it with way lower PSI in the middle. After that, I grabbed some of this paint, put it in another airbrush, and then added equal amount of white to it to make the highlight color. The highlight can look a little bit stiff, and this is where the first airbrush comes in. I go over the entire part with the thinned down main color to bring this gradient together. The reason why I use 2 airbrushes is just so that I don't have to wash my brushes, halfway through the process, right? But obviously, you can totally do this entire process with just 1 airbrush, except you have to switch paints out a couple of times. Knowing our intended result, I added some cyan to the paint I originally mixed, and we got our turquoise. In order to make the highlight color, I just grabbed an old white bottle with some residual paint at the bottom and added some of the main paint to it. This way I get to use every last bit of the paint in the bottle, plus a free color mixing bottle. I wanted to make a contrast color that's in the same hue but just with less saturation, so I started out with a bottle that's got a little bit of black in it. I added the shade color that we just came up with and added some white to basically just make the previous color but with gray. This way we basically just have the same color but step down in saturation, and it'll go really well with the main color. After only getting the shadow color on, I felt like this was already looking great. Compared to the original color, this paint looks a lot more vibrant. I kind of wished I was doing a flat paint build, but since all of my other Witch from Mercury kits were all done in shading, I kind of have to keep it uniform. The best way to seem like you've done more than you actually did is to paint all the joints in metallic. I'm using gunmetal here for most of the joints. For the minigun barrel and thrusters, I had this idea of doing a burnt titanium look, starting from a silver base, first adding a clear yellow ring halfway, down the middle, then clear red while overlapping the yellow a bit to create this orange gradient, then blue while overlapping the red to create a purple gradient to get this, I'd say a pretty decent looking result. Lastly, a super underrated step, before panel lining and decals, you actually want to put on a glossy clear coat. This makes the panel lining paint flow a lot better and helps the edges of decals seem a lot less visible. That's it for the basic painting, and wow, somehow that took almost 10 hours. Honestly, most of the time was spent on masking, which I guess I barely showed any of that in this video. Anyways, let's get to the decals. I don't have a specific decal sheet for this kit, so I'm just gonna be using some generic ones. Alright, lastly I gave the whole thing a layer of flat clear coat to finish the kit. This time I used some Odenkan UV resisting flat clear. It's a lot easier to handle than the all clad. Although I do prefer the look of the all clad better, it just rubs off so easily. The overall time was over 21 hours. I think the most amount of time was spent on masking, but that's only because I didn't do any modifications here. Otherwise that would have taken the most amount of time. We still got some of these holes to fill up, which I did with some of my 3D printed round plugs. So this is my overall scoreboard based on MadWorks rubrics. Their entire thing was in Chinese, so I had to translate it into English as much as possible. Hopefully this makes sense. From what I've seen on MadWorks shows, they usually get somewhere around 3,000, a bit more than 3,000. I would say like this rubric is not super serious, not super balanced, right? For example, every color separation you add onto it, that's 20 points. On the gun barrel, because I did a bunch of little color separations there, right? Like a single gun barrel had like 12 color separations. Every single hollow part filled is worth 50 points, so I filled 8 of them, and that's 400 points all of a sudden. But then for something that actually takes time, you know, every single water decal is only worth 1 point. Every single part that's shaded painted is only worth 2 points. So it's like some of these points are just not super balanced, right? So I don't know, it's a cool little activity to get into, but I just wouldn't really take it too seriously, right? Okay, enough talk. Let's get to the final result. That's it for the Lfrith Ur, just really getting back to the basics. Absolutely love this kit, 10 out of 10 recommend. Hopefully that was informative. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord, link in the description. I'll see you guys next time.